actor and comedian Jim Carrey has raised eyebrows during a rare red carpet appearance at the French Film Awards. And Kinsey, fans were shocked by his very different look, some claiming this man could even be an imposter.
2 weeks ago, something strange happened in Paris. Photos from the César Awards hit the internet. And within minutes, people started asking a question that sounds completely insane. Is that really Jim Carrey? He was one of the most famous faces in Hollywood history, and when he walked into a room full of cameras and journalists, almost nobody recognized him. But then people noticed that his face looked different, his expressions looked different, and according to some viewers, even the hand he used to sign autographs was different. But the biggest question should not be, is it plastic surgery? Rather, it should be, did something happen to Jim Carrey long before that night in Paris? Because when you go back and line up the timeline of everything he said before he disappeared, the story becomes a lot stranger than anyone expected. And by the end of this video, you might see that moment very differently. What exactly did people notice about Jim Carrey that night in Paris? Something spectacular happened on February 26, 2026, and it left the internet in complete shock. Jim Carrey made a very rare appearance at the 51st César Awards in Paris to accept an honorary award. And immediately, the photos of him hit the internet. The questions started flooding in. Why does Jim Carrey look different? Was Jim Carrey replaced by a clone? And before you say people were overreacting, wait until you hear what they actually noticed, because some of it is hard to explain away. Everyone had so many different opinions. Some said his new look seemed tighter, smoother, more lifted than they remembered. Others described his features as fuller, with less of the rubbery expressiveness that made him one of the most recognizable faces in the world. Many people believed that Jim Carrey's facial change was a result of cosmetic work and that he had gone to get a facelift and other procedures that are common among Hollywood stars. Though Jim had not said anything to that effect, the Jim Carrey shocking transformation conversation was already everywhere, and it was not slowing down. But when you hear what actually happened, you will wish that Jim had just done plastic surgery. Jim having cosmetic surgery is not even the strangest part of this whole Jim Carrey conspiracy theory. That's because when Jim was seen signing autographs at the César Awards in Paris, people noticed that something was off with the hand he was using to do this. People saw that instead of the left hand that they were used to seeing him use to sign autographs, he used the right hand this time.
Every fake news is saying you are not Jim Carrey. That's true or not?
That further fueled the belief that something was wrong. First, his face had changed, and next he was using the wrong hand to sign. All of it felt off, and that gave birth to the speculations that Jim Carrey has been replaced with a clone.
This is not Jim Carrey. It reminds me of this, and this, and this, and this, and this.
Of course, using a decoy to get the press off your back is one thing. But sending somebody else in your place to accept an honorary award at the French equivalent of the Oscars with your family in attendance would be quite another. But the truth was that no one cared to listen anymore. The Jim Carrey viral video claims were running ahead of reality, and almost no one stopped to check. And just when we thought the worst had happened, drag artist Alexis Stone posted on Instagram claiming to have been Jim Carrey in Paris, alongside images of prosthetic masks, fake teeth, and a wig. As expected, that post got overnight success that most Hollywood stars have never had. And even Megan Fox commented, saying that she could not handle any more stress and needed to know if it was real. But if she was stressed, what were the rest of the world supposed to feel? People began to frantically search for the truth, and the trending topic all of a sudden became that Hollywood had cloned Jim Carrey. Most people like me were not angry with this because this is the part of celebrity clone conspiracy culture that is genuinely fascinating to watch, because it does not need evidence to spread. It just needs a feeling, and people had a lot of feelings about this. Finally, on Monday morning, César Awards organizers and Carrey's reps got tired of all the drama and confirmed that they had planned his visit since the previous summer. As a matter of fact, a prosthetics expert told LAD Bible it was 100% Jim Carrey. And just like that, everyone realized that the Jim Carrey cloned theory was never real. But the conversation it opened about actors who changed their faces and what we do with that discomfort, that part was very real. But what if the real story started years before anyone noticed his face? So what if the Jim Carrey transformation has nothing to do with vanity? What if it is not about chasing youth or impressing anyone, What if the thing Hollywood does not want you to look at too closely is not his face at all, but the timeline of everything that happened before it? Because when you line it up, something feels very off. Let's start with something that most people have forgotten. You see, years before anyone was debating Jim Carrey's plastic surgery or asking why he looks different in 2026, Jim Carrey was standing on a Fashion Week red carpet in 2017, saying things that powerful people in Hollywood do not want their biggest stars saying. He looked directly into the camera and told E! News, "There is no me, there are just things happening."
There's no meaning to any of this, so I wanted to find the most meaningless thing that I could come to and join, and here I am. Do you believe in icons? I don't believe in personalities. I don't believe that you exist.
This wasn't just another random statement. No, Jim was publicly dismantling the very idea of celebrity, and he was questioning the very system that had made him one of the highest paid actors on the planet, and Hollywood didn't like that. The discomfort grew bigger, and suddenly that Jim Carrey's interview went viral because people could see that he was telling the truth. This is when the problem started, because powerful industries do not forget when one of their biggest assets starts telling the public that the whole thing is empty. That is why it didn't really come as a surprise to the public when Jim quietly disappeared after that interview. He stepped away from acting, retreated into painting, philosophy, and a spiritual life that had nothing to do with Hollywood. Immediately, people began to notice how strange this was. I mean, for someone who once made The Truman Show, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and The Mask, this was a complete personality shift. But regardless of that, no one really paid attention to that after a few days. After all, celebrities go on a break from the industry, and they always term it as personal growth. But is that really all there is to it? Because when these celebrities come back looking like Jim Carrey in 2026, the explanations start to feel thin. Everyone had almost forgotten about the statement Jim made before he disappeared, and then he surfaces in Paris at the César Awards, and the internet cannot agree on whether it is even him. But this is not actually the first time that this has happened in Hollywood. It seems that every time something drastic happens, or a celebrity makes a stern sentence, they come back looking changed, like when Selena Gomez had her lupus transplant and her appearance changed. Everyone said it was a clone, but we could write it off, but when her behavior shifted, it started getting more difficult not to believe the rumors. Or think about Avril Lavigne, whose entire personality seemed to shift after a period of crisis so severe her team said she had accepted death. She came back, but did she come back the same? According to a very dedicated corner of the internet, absolutely not. And the reason people keep asking that question is the same reason they are asking it about Jim Carrey now. These are all different stories, but the structure underneath them is the same. A celebrity becomes too honest, goes through something significant, comes back looking different, and the internet starts having a conversation nobody wants to have. But could the internet be correct? Is it possible that Jim Carrey is actually gone and has been replaced by a Hollywood clone? I strongly believe that the answer is in a film Jim Carrey made almost 30 years ago. What if the answer to this mystery was hiding in Jim Carrey's own movies? How do I mean? Well, let's look at the detail that nobody in the Jim Carrey replaced conspiracy discussions ever brings up. Before any of this happened, Jim Carrey had already lived through a version of it, and it was caught on camera. We all remember when Jim Carrey made Man on the Moon in 1999, right? But did you know that he did not just play Andy Kaufman? He refused to answer to his own name on set for the entire shoot. But the strange part did not end there. You see, the studio was so disturbed by the footage that they locked it away for nearly 20 years, afraid it would damage his image. He later said that after production ended, he had genuine difficulty finding himself again, that he looked for Jim Carrey and could not locate him. So when people ask, is that really Jim Carrey? After looking at Jim Carrey now, maybe the most unsettling answer is that even he has not always been sure. Jim is not a man who has a clean, stable relationship with his own identity. And that makes him the perfect subject for Hollywood Mystery Explained videos, because the mystery might have started long before any of us noticed. But aside from Andy's role, there is a film that I keep coming back to every time the Jim Carrey theories surface. In The Truman Show, Jim Carrey plays a man whose entire life, every relationship, every moment, every coincidence, is controlled by unseen forces for an audience he does not know exists. The film came out in 1998, and 1 year later, Jim Carrey is on the Man on the Moon set, dissolving his own identity so completely that the studio panics. A few years after that, He is in a Jim Carrey interview on a red carpet, telling journalists that fame is an illusion and the self does not exist. I am not saying The Truman Show predicted Jim Carrey's life, but the actor who played a man trapped inside a fabricated reality, controlled by people he could not see, performing for an audience he did not know. That same actor later looked at Hollywood and said out loud that it was exactly that, a fabricated reality, and then something happened to him. So you tell me if that is a coincidence. Maybe the Hollywood clone story isn't real. After all, who would allow a clone to stand on that stage in César Awards Paris and accept a French honorary award on Jim Carrey's behalf? But I believe one of two things happened. The first is the one that the conspiracy community has been pushing hardest, that Hollywood silenced Jim Carrey. That was when he stood on that red carpet in 2017 and started telling the world that fame was empty and the system was hollow. The people who run this industry made a quiet decision to take him away and bring him back on their terms and in a manner that they could control. The second possibility is that the pressure of being Jim Carrey got to him all on his own. After all, back in 2022, Jim Carrey said something that I genuinely believe he meant with every part of himself. He looked at the camera and said, "I have had enough. I have done enough. I am enough." He called it something you might never hear another celebrity say as long as time exists. He was done. But then, 2 years later, he quietly came back for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And when someone asked him why, the man who once told us that fame was an illusion and the self did not exist said, "And I need you to understand how much this stings. I bought a lot of stuff, and I need the money." It was almost as if he came back looking like someone who had made a deal he could not fully explain. So tell me what you think. Did Hollywood find a way to silence Jim Carrey? Or did the pressure of being Jim Carrey get to him? Drop your thoughts in the comments.